Billionaire finds his maid sleeping on a bench with his baby. What happens next is shocking. In the pale hush before sunrise, while the city still breathed in dreams, a billionaire slipped out of his grand estate, restless, heavy-hearted, unsure why sleep refused to stay. Silence felt unfamiliar to him. His world was built on commands, movement, and polished walls. But that morning, something unexpected pulled him to a stop. Near the garden bench, washed gently by the first light of morning, lay his maid, the woman who moved quietly through rooms no one noticed. She slept with his child in her arms. The baby's cheek rested softly against her chest, both of them wrapped beneath the same worn shawl she always carried. The billionaire stood frozen. His pulse jumped. For a moment, everything else faded, the wealth, the power, the world he thought he controlled. Why was she out here? What had happened? He stepped closer, slow, careful not to wake them. The baby shifted and smiled as if the safest place on earth was right there, in her embrace. That tiny smile cracked something inside him. He had never seen his child so calm, so protected, so deeply loved. In that moment, the truth hit him. She owned nothing, yet she gave his child what his millions never could. What he discovered next would rewrite both their lives. Because sometimes the greatest wealth isn't counted in money or marble. It rests quietly in borrowed blankets and hearts that love without being asked. He had walked outside seeking peace, but what he found was something far greater. Before we continue, kindly tell us in the comments, what time is it where you're watching from? Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now let's get back to our story. That morning carried a weight he couldn't name, a cold unease moving through the courtyard like a warning. He stepped into the garden to steady his thoughts, and then he froze. There, on the weathered bench near the fountain, his maid lay curled beneath a thin blanket, his child resting safely in the fold of her arms. The shock hit hard. Her shawl, old, faded, was wrapped around the baby instead of herself. Her fingers trembled from the cold, yet she held the child as though breaking that embrace wasn't an option. He stood rooted to the ground, breath caught, mind racing. He trusted her with his home, with his daily life. But this was different. Why was his baby outside? Was this a mistake, or something he didn't understand yet? He stepped closer, slow and silent. The baby's tiny hand clutched her dress, breathing soft and steady, completely at ease. The maid's face showed exhaustion, not carelessness. Peace, not neglect. It didn't look like failure, it looked like devotion. Her name was Clara. Quiet, unnoticed, working in shadows nobody bothered to see. No riches, no family, just a heart wide enough to hold a child that wasn't hers. Every day she cared for his baby like bloodline meant nothing. She sang old lullabies he never understood, but the baby did. That night, the nursery heater failed. The child cried until tears turned to gasps. Maintenance never came, and the billionaire was out, unreachable. So Clara did what love does. She wrapped the baby in her only warmth and carried her outside beneath the stars, rocking her through the night until peace returned. She meant only to rest, not sleep, but love outlasted her strength. He arrived and saw only the scene, not the sacrifice. But underneath it all was a kind of sacrifice only those who have known struggle can give. In that instant, reality shifted. Nothing looked the way he assumed it would. He stood frozen, emotions clashing like thunder in his chest. Anger, confusion, guilt, fear, all at once. He whispered her name, Clara. She jolted awake, holding the baby tighter instinctively. When her gaze met his, panic flickered through her eyes. "Sir, I'm sorry. I didn't mean..." Her voice broke before her tears did. The baby stirred, calm, untouched by the cold or the moment. He stepped closer, voice unsteady. "You stayed out here with my child." Clara lowered her eyes and nodded. "The nursery was freezing, sir." She wouldn't stop crying. The sentence hit harder than he expected. Guilt settled slowly, quietly, like frost on glass. He looked at her shaking fingers, then at his peaceful child nestled against her. The world went still. Something inside him didn't break. Something opened. "You could have gotten sick," he murmured. A faint smile trembled through her tears. If she slept safely, it was worth it. He had never heard loyalty sound like that, plain, soft, painfully real. For the first time in his life, the richest man in the room felt like the poorest. Later that morning, he asked her to sit. No commands, no distance, just a plea to understand. She hesitated, clutching her shawl like armor. He met her eyes gently. "Tell me everything, Clara." And she did. She spoke of a life before this one. A husband gone too soon, a baby girl lost because there wasn't enough money for medicine. Her voice quivered through each memory. "I couldn't save my own child," she whispered. "So when I hold yours, it feels like I'm holding her again." Silence filled the room, thick and unmoving. His eyes burned with tears he never knew he had. He saw her pain like a shadow she carried everywhere, and the love she gave freely to a child that wasn't hers. She had lost everything, yet she gave more than he ever did. Her care was not duty, it was healing. Every lullaby was for the daughter she buried. Every smile was forgiveness she never received. And the billionaire lowered his head, not defeated but humbled. He had gold. She had heart. In that instant it struck him, she had given his child more tenderness than he ever had. That old bench wasn't just wood, it was where her broken heart found meaning again. That evening he gathered his family, his mother, his sister, his wife. They expected outrage, maybe dismissal. Instead, his tone held something close to reverence. "This woman," he said softly, "kept my daughter alive." Shock rippled through the room. "She froze so my child wouldn't. While I slept in warmth, she guarded her in the cold." Clara stood small and unsure, waiting for punishment that never came. Instead, the billionaire did something no one imagined. He bowed before her. "I never saw you clearly," he whispered. "But today I learned what real love looks like." He offered her more than wages, he offered her a home. Not behind them, but beside them. A life with comfort, not exhaustion. A place where she belonged. The household fell silent. No one had ever seen him cry. He lifted his daughter and looked at Clara with new eyes. "From this moment, you are family." And for the first time in years, Clara smiled without sorrow. Because sometimes kindness wakes the coldest hearts. And sometimes the one with the least is the one who gives the most. Days passed and the mansion changed. Laughter lived in rooms once quiet. Warmth replaced walls. The billionaire noticed everything now. The way Clara hummed while she worked, how the baby clung to her before anyone else, how her presence softened even the hardest corners. One morning he handed her a small necklace, nothing loud, nothing grand. A gold heart, simple and true. "For the woman who kept mine beating," he murmured. She shook her head, trying to refuse. "I don't need gifts, sir. Her happiness is enough." But he placed it gently in her hands. "You showed me love isn't bought. It's given." And she smiled with light, not tears. That moment wasn't about wealth. It was gratitude. Gratitude for a heart he nearly overlooked. From then on, the mansion breathed differently. Not richer, warmer. Everyone felt it. Something irreplaceable had taken root. But life always tests what is true. One night, the child turned pale and breathless. Fear swept through the house like a storm. Doctors rushed in, machines buzzed, voices rose. Yet Clara didn't panic. She stepped forward, steady, certain, and gathered the baby against her chest. She sang, the same soft tune she once sang to the daughter she lost. Her voice shook, but her resolve didn't. "Not her too," she whispered through tears. The billionaire stood helpless, watching the only person who seemed unafraid. Time dragged, suffocating and slow. Then slowly the child's breathing evened. Color washed back into her cheeks. The room fell still. Even the doctors had no words. Clara looked up gently. "She's all right now." The billionaire covered his face, breaking. He knew it wasn't medicine, it was love. Quiet faith had saved his child again. The only sound left was the baby cooing softly, alive and safe. Some prayers are spoken through tears, not speech. Days passed, and Clara's heart grew uncertain. She felt too close, too seen. She feared the whispers, just a maid too attached. So one quiet morning, she folded her few belongings into a bag, left a simple note on the table, and walked toward the gate. But a voice stopped her. The billionaire stood there, daughter in his arms. "You were leaving without goodbye?" She froze, eyes wet. "I don't fit here, sir. People talk." He stepped closer, placing the baby back where she felt safest, Clara's arms. "You belong where love lives," he said. "You're not just a maid. You're her guardian." Her tears fell without restraint. "You're not leaving," he whispered. "You're staying home." The baby laughed in her arms, as if choosing her without question. The gate stood open, but she didn't walk away. She didn't need to. Love had given her a place to stay, and for the first time in years, she believed she deserved it. Seasons turned. The child grew, first steps, first words, first hurts, and Clara was there for all of them. Steady, quiet, unshakable. The billionaire grew older too, but softer. He stopped counting money and started counting moments. Clara became more than staff, she became home. The little girl called her Mama Clara, and those two words changed everything. The mansion was no longer just marble and size, it was warmth. Pictures on the walls told their story. Distance becoming closeness, pride softening into gratitude. And in every memory, Clara's small, gentle smile. She never sought praise. Her reward was simple, the child's happiness. When people asked how the billionaire's life transformed so completely, he always answered the same. "Because one woman loved my daughter more than I knew how to." Real wealth, he learned, isn't stored, it's felt. And Clara, who once had nothing, gave everything. Her faith became his certainty. True wealth, he learned, has nothing to do with fortune. And true poverty can hide behind diamonds and marble. The girl grew with two parents, one by blood, one by love. She learned that family is not who you're born to, but who never lets go. Clara's story spread quietly, not needing applause to matter. Even after she was gone, her presence lived on, in laughter, in bedtime whispers, in every warm morning light. The billionaire would say only, "She didn't serve my home, she served love." One act of tenderness rewrote a proud man's life. And one gentle maid taught him what it really means to be human. If you enjoyed this story, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more emotional, dramatic, and unexpected tales. Let us know where you're watching from in the comments. We love hearing from you. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep watching.